In my recent videos where I've talked about how to solo power level 160 missions, I've tended to use Ice King in the lead. I appreciate Ice King is not available to everybody, so I thought I'd run this mission without using Ice King in the lead. It's power level 160, evacuate the shelter. I'm still going to use a constructor loadout. I highly recommend using constructor loadouts for all of these kind of missions, especially when you're trying to solo them. So I'm using base Carl in the lead for the lofty architecture, 84% additional building health, supercharged traps, mega base, power modulation. I have got Ice King in support, but you don't need him in there. Cupid's arrow for the bow, survivalist, banner, slow field, and because I'm running this solo, I've put the mission onto private. That means I can build what I want, I can do what I want, I don't have to worry about other players, don't have to communicate with them, and it just goes to show you don't need to use multiple constructors to be able to solo these missions. So as soon as I spawn into the mission, I need to get over to the structure as quickly as possible. The count of husks killed doesn't start until you're close enough, so they will continue to throw themselves and damage the shield and then the shelter until you get there, and then the timer will count down. And because you only get 30 spawning when you're solo, the shield will hold up well enough to kill all of those without needing to do it. Unfortunately, didn't quite manage to get my banner down there, but as you can see, all of the husks have killed themselves against the shield, so I can respawn. I'm not going to use my revive just in case I need it later, so I've respawned and back I go to the shelter. Let's grab this chest on the way.
Quite tell where the storm is coming from yet.
Alright, so it looks like we've got a bit of an awkward location for this shelter. There's kind of a little hill here which is half covering it up. That means we don't have clean defences around all the sides. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm just going to chuck these floors down and then put the walls up. The reason for putting the floors there is that husks can sometimes get themselves stuck between the edge of the ground and the wall, and then they will just continue to bash on the structures. So putting a floor there just means that it stops them falling into that little gap. And then doing as I always do, placing walls with doors edited in them all the way around the structure too high. The walls with the doors means that the structures aren't considered to be targetable for smashes and propanes and things like that. And talking about a smasher, there is one, so we'll just get rid of him. Okay, and then back to the build. Now, whilst the smasher won't necessarily target the walls, they could see that tree, they might have targeted the tree, so it's just worth getting rid of all of those kind of environmental structures when you can. Above the shelter, I've put the floor rather, out of brick, and I'm going to cover the rest of it in brick as well. This is a nature storm, as you've seen from the nature husks, and nature husks will do double damage against metal. So there is no point in building in metal if you've got structures that are potentially going to get hit by a husk in a nature storm. Okay, these tiles up here, they're not likely to get directly hit, so I can build these out of wood just to save on more expensive resources. And just start upgrading as I go. Not everything needs to be upgraded to tier 3. You can leave certain structures at tier 1 or tier 2. It really does depend on whether the husk is going to hit them. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of some of these little husks just in case they decide they want to start wandering around whilst I'm trying to build. go. Okay, over this ramp here, I'm going to use a little wooden stair trick. Here, I think I need to block the husks from even trying to get up to that point, because I can't put a wall between the ramp and the structure. So, a couple of wooden floors there to hang traps from, a couple of brick floors there. So here, ceiling drop traps pointing away from the structure. The husks will get pushed backwards. Gonna put some floor freeze traps on the ground, again facing away from the direction I want the husks to be pushed. So that means that the floor freeze traps and the tyre traps will both be pushing the husks away from the walls of the structure. It might only give a moment or two's reprieve, but a moment or two can be the difference between the wall breaking and the wall staying and healing itself up. Again, I'm going to hang traps off the ceiling. Can't really do anything under there, as you can see. And I'm just going to gather bits and pieces of stone as I go, just to make sure I don't run out. Okay, here I'm placing some wooden floors. Now, this is a design that came from a chap named Hubo. The husks won't see this as a valid path. Anything that approaches these stairs from underneath won't see it as a valid path. Mist monsters and mini bosses will walk straight through. Animals will bash it, but basic husks won't see it as a valid path and will find another way around. So just to put the husks off the idea of standing on that and breaking their way through, because there's no wall between the ramp and the structure, I've used a couple of extra walls and then floor freeze traps underneath and the ceiling drop traps as before, placing them 2 tiles high because they will do more damage. So you can place a tyre trap up to 3 tiles above the ground. I find 2 is the best kind of balance. So 1 tile up they don't bounce enough, 3 tiles up and it's more difficult to place them, so I just generally place mine 2 tiles up. In here I am going to place a floor freeze trap again, pushing away, and above I'm going to put another wooden wall and another floor above with another tyre trap, so that if the husks do eventually bash their way through onto this tile, again they will get pushed back. Hopefully with the walls around it, they won't see it as a particularly good path to take. They tend to try and look for the quickest route, and if it's quicker for them to go around the block off than it is for them to bash their way through, then they will, generally speaking, they will go round the block off. But if it's going to be less time for them just to bash their way in, then they will bash their way in. Okay, up here I'm going to place some anti-air traps, and that's just in case any lobbers and flingers decide to start throwing projectiles up here. I don't need too many up here because I'm not planning to AFK this defense. I'm going to be active all the way through and looking for things that need to be taken care of. The traps are there to delay any husks that get to the structure, but I am going to be taking an active role in this. So this is the advantage of this build, is that you can choose in a lot of cases how active you want to be. If you want to largely AFK it, you can. If you have a challenge where you have to, say, kill husks with a particular type of weapon, you can do that in this mission. With the floor freeze traps, it makes it particularly easy because they get stuck on the floor freeze and you can just shoot them with whatever you want. I'm just going to put some electric fields up there for husks that come along here to damage them a bit, just because it's a bit of a janky location. So a few extra traps here and there is going to help. Okay, I've only got about a minute left, so I've actually used most of the time up that you get to build structures in this mission. Just going to farm some of this up to get some more brick back. We find naturally occurring rocks are a much better source of brick than pre-built structures and walls, because you'll get additional materials out of them, like the rough ore and the powders. But if you just need some brick itself, you can just bash away at some of these structures and get them out of the way. I don't want to get rid of too much of it because I can actually use it as cover. I'm just going to do a last quick check around. Good job I did, because there's a couple of unimproved structures around here. I think I'm probably going to need to put something up there. Can I get up there? Yes, I can. Another ceiling drop trap there to push the husks away, and a floor freeze trap there. Might get a few husks that wander around here, so just worth adding that bit of defense, and then again clearing out this other wall. Now the husks are already starting to reach the shelter around the other side. I'm not too worried at this point. As you can see, a few of them have walked around here. They've most likely come around here because I'm here, and they're assassin husks. They're interested in killing me, not necessarily damaging the structure, so they've walked around. So I'm going to get away from there because that's the most lightly defended area. As you can see with these wooden stairs, the husks that have approached them from the top, they are bashing on them, and they have actually taken them out, so that's no longer blocked. But that's not really a problem, because that's not where the husks are spawning from. There's a few assassins that are chasing after me, but I can just make use of this structure that's already here as cover. Go around. There you can see the cowboys, I think what they call sharpshooters or something. They're trying to shoot at me. You've got some of the basic husks that are trying to attack me, and you've got the blaster there that's attacking me as well. And then the other husks are mostly heading for the shelter where the traps are delaying them enough. Okay, over here where these other wooden stairs are, nothing is going up there. Just check around here. There's a few things bashing on that little wall there, because they know if they get through that wall they can sneak through that gap. But I've got traps defending that too, so we should be okay. I find nurse husks are quite often a problem in this kind of build, because without the nurse husks, the drop traps at power level 144 can quite often kill a lot of the little husks, and the riot huskies especially. But with a nurse husk, the nurse husk can be standing there and just constantly healing the back up, and if you get a couple of riot huskies stood there with the nurse husk stood out of the way, they can tank the damage from a 144 drop trap, and they can do enough damage to take down the walls. You just have to be a little bit careful when doing this kind of build. With any kind of AFK build, it's never a guarantee that it's going to work perfectly every time. You should always be aware of what's going on and not just fire and forget. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know that this is a pretty standard template for how I build things, with floor freeze traps and the ceiling drop traps. I have run these kind of missions AFK plenty of times, but I do actually find AFK in all of these missions, it's just a bit boring, really. I like to take a more active role in the missions that I do, even when I'm playing solo. Shelter's taken a little bit of damage, not sure where that's come from, and I've just been shot. But I'm not too bothered. I placed my banner down close by but out of the way, so I can respawn close to the shelter as soon as the timer runs down. And I'm straight back in with the defense. Don't appear to have had any lobbers or flingers in this defense. And just saw there a few husks getting running out of time and despawning. Again, you can see these wooden ramps, they're just being ignored. The husks are all walking 3 sides of the square to get up here. Sounds like that there's a smasher wandering about somewhere. Just want to make sure that he's nowhere near. So he's wandered off the other way. He's got nothing that he can charge at, so he's just going to stay out of the way. He's chasing a wolf, as you do. And again, just knocked over by a pitcher. Not bothered. The structure itself is going to look after itself. I'm just running around to keep myself entertained. Respawn back at the banner, see what's going on. Lots of husks getting tyres to the face. Bit of a glitch on the recording there. So I record these through GeForce Now. My hardware is not powerful enough to be able to cope with running Save the World and recording at the same time. I get a lot of audio issues, so I record through GeForce Now, which means sometimes I get a little bit of input delay, sometimes get a little bit of a glitch on the recording if the network gets interrupted slightly. It looks like quite a lot of those ceiling electric fields have disappeared. But that's okay, so last 10 seconds of the mission, I'm just going to stay over here because I've nearly been knocked again. Stay out the way of the structures, stay out the way of the husks, and just let the mission finish. And there we go, that's how to evacuate the shelter when you've got a not very nice location. Thanks for your time.